I'm not a huge fan of Democrats and Republicans redrawing the districts.
I'm going to shock the world here. I'm going to actually take the stance that the libertarians take.
All the kids in school were just saying vote Trump because that's what their parents were saying.
Welcome to the Young Patriots. I'm your host, Devin Romero. I'm with our co-host, Aiden. And we've got our guest here, Jeffrey Paris. Say hi to the camera, Jeffrey.
Hola, guten Tag, konnichiwa.
Okay, so we're just going to get into it. Last time we tried breaking down what we were going to talk about. We didn't hit all the topics. So we're going to start out by having Jeffrey introduce himself. Just tell us a little bit about your background.
And?
Anything
Your background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that was a false like high point on the sentence.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you very much for having me on
Yeah.
this show. It's been pretty good so far, and we haven't even started recording yet.
Yeah, we missed all the good conversations already.
Yeah, I'm Jeffrey Paris. I'm 19 years old. I'm from Sonora, California. I'm a BYUI student, and as a sophomore, I major in communications video production, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm still not quite sure how I got on this show. Aiden just DM'd me because he saw my Instagram story about celebrating Zohran Mamdani's victory as New York City's mayor, and there's a nice plate of cookies in front of me. I'm someone who stands up for progressive voices, to uniting people together, and I'm a token white guy. What else can I say? I also I love movies, music. I love dancing. I sing, not because I'm good at it, but because it's fun. And I really like politics.
Nice.
For some reason.
Again, just as a reminder, the reason we do this is to help bring the humanity into the discussion. It can get really heated really easily. We want to remind everyone that we are all people here. No one is just an object that you're right to be angry at and shout down.
They're not?
Yeah,
No,
it's
I'm
kind of
kidding.
crazy. So what I was saying earlier was we actually were already having like an hour-long conversation prior to turning the cameras on. Maybe we'll have some deleted scenes from some of those conversations, but it was really good, really awesome. It feels like we already had an episode. So we're just getting started on part 2.
This is what it's all
What's
about.
up?
I'm getting mean looks from the producers. I was taking the label off my water bottle. I guess it made too much noise. If you heard that, that's what it was. I took the label off because I'm not letting that company sponsor us.
Yeah, their
It's
anger is
Or they're not
justified.
sponsoring us, so I'm not going to advertise them. So it's just being salty. See, this is we created this water. We have a water company now.
As somebody who's worked in videography and sound design, I understand why they're pissed.
Yeah. This is bucked up water. I gotta stop. Anyways, let's continue.
Okay.
Just be like me. Just get the reusable stuff and not the polluting plastic.
I'm gonna throw this in with the turtles when I'm done.
That's not a liberal statement. That's just me being a good person.
Okay. So we're going to get started on talking about different like mental, I guess not really mental illness, but just some mental irregularities, and then also just
You mean
like
disabilities?
genetic disabilities and stuff.
They're
So-
disabilities.
Okay. So you were talking about how you have autism and Tourette's.
Indeed, I do.
And for those that don't know, I'm sure everyone knows. Can you just define that for people in the audience?
Yeah, sure. So I was at the age of 2, I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, which means life is hard.
Harder than normal.
Yeah, pretty much. Just functioned with trouble with learning and communications. In the first early years of my life, I had a aide with me who would, like a personal aide, a lady, a teacher who would sit with me in different classes and, work with me after school to help me learn better, to do homework good, to make friends, communicate, and all that. Then after the second grade, I stopped all that, and then I've kind of felt good about it. I feel like mine is manageable. My parents knew how to handle my autism because they learned from my older sister who's also on the spectrum.
Okay.
And soon at the age of 9, I started making strange noises, which was this, like constantly. And I could hear it throughout all the house, and it was driving my mom nuts, like really crazy. She was pulling her hair out over it. So, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So we drove up north in California, and I was told that I have Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
Or tics for short, which I know I haven't really had to explain tics as much as I used to when I was younger, because I feel like Tourette's has become very mainstream. But those who don't know, it's involuntary movements and noises. It's comes and goes, gets worse or better with the seasons, like during the summer or with Christmas. 'Cause when I was a kid, it was so bad during Christmas Eve. I'd just be so excited Christmas Eve, and I would just be shaking my head and shaking my body so violently that I could not get a moment's rest, and I would cry.
So is it seasonal because of holidays, or is it because of the weather?
It's because of the excitement and the anxiety, and it's been a little bad lately just with the stress of with school, with the weather, and social life. It's a difficult world out there. I'm trying to learn to manage it well. The best thing I've learned to do is to be open about my Tourette's, because every now and then I get weird looks from people, or people are uncomfortable when they see me shaking my legs or holding up the middle finger, which I'm trying not to do because I'm on camera.
Mm-hmm.
But I just got to be open, hey, I've got Tourette's. It's not in my control. Can't do anything about it. And most people are very understanding about it, which I'm very glad they are.
Yeah, we live in a much more, I would say, inclusive and friendly society when it comes to mental illnesses, genetic defects, and disabilities of all other kinds. Because we understand that. We're already in a situation right now where people are finding all the amazing things that people used to think autistic kids were just slow or not developed fully, but there's amazing things that people with autism can do that people that don't have autism can't.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely no Rain Man. That's for sure.
I'm not familiar with that term, actually.
Rain Man? It's a movie with Tom Cruise, Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman plays this guy who's a grown adult who's autistic and has amazing skills. It can just memorize whole books, count cards for poker.
Yes,
do all that
savant level.
Stuff. I can't do any of that.
I feel like you get closer to that the less high functioning you are. And you seem pretty high functioning.
Yeah, I'm definitely high functioning.
Yeah. So it seems like a trade-off. It's almost like you get to trade in mobility, I would say, and being able to speak for these other intellectual gifts, which I don't think should be discounted, which is really sad to see that that's been the case in the past. But we're living in a time where I think people are more open to accepting people with disabilities. They have different gifts, but they've got a seat at the table still, or they need to be given one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, but
do you consider it a disability? Is that wrong for me to call it that?
No, it's definitely is.
Okay.
Because I'm not disabled or anything, but I do consider it something that weighs down on my life.
How have you seen that?
Well, I seen it at a young age when I was just starting out fourth grade. I didn't know that I was being made fun of for my disability because
really openly in front of you.
Yeah, because I had trouble with classes. I needed extra help from teachers, and sometimes I would say stupid things, just randomly stupid crap, and I still do. Just I'm more self-aware.
Yeah.
And whatnot, and I was all the time, I was called retard and retarded by other students, and I was brushed it off when I was a kid because, literally everybody was in the fourth grade was calling each other retards. And
yeah.
Now, I don't know, the word is just, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it, what I think we were talking about before with it's the word retarded. I don't care much for. I'm fine with saying it because it's like was in the past for medical history, and it really means
Yeah.
slow.
It is a
But now
medically
it's
accurate
just
term.
used as an insult
Yeah.
for somebody who's stupid.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought it meant when I was a kid. But it's the word retard that it just annoys me and gets under my skin, just because, again, that's like every other word that kids in the 4th grade were saying.
Yep.
Kids are messed up these days.
Oh, yeah.
And with my autism, it's throughout high school. I didn't consider it to affect me because I'm more high functioning, but it definitely came hard down on me when I graduated high school, because sorry, let me clear my throat. I've had a bad cough for a while.
One thing I like though is that you're okay being open about it. I think that's like we all gotta own ourselves, who we are, who we truly are, not what gender we think we are. But I like that you're being open about it and that you're comfortable telling people and making that
Well, disabilities is definitely separate from gender and sex.
Right. I was making a side comment, but I just wanted to praise you because you understand yourself and you love yourself, even though some people might think that you're a little bit different. I think it's cool that you're being open about that.
Yeah.
Love is a hard word to say about myself. Well, I normally wouldn't. When I was in high school, I didn't consider it an issue. I considered that it's just part of my life. But I accepted that for a while. But it's been harder for me to accept it, because when I was just finishing up my last few weeks of high school, I was turning in my application to become a missionary, a proselyting missionary. Mm-hmm. That was what I wanted to do my whole life as a kid. That's what everyone was telling me. But as I was undergoing the process, there were people who were telling me maybe consider a service mission. Missions are really hard for people with autism. And I was like, yeah, of course, it's not meant to be easy. Nothing in life is, but it's really hard for autistic people. And I was like, no, I just want to be a missionary. I think this is what God wants me to do. But I learned it the hard way that it wasn't, because I remember I had a psychological evaluation over Zoom with a psychologist.
Yeah.
And I took a few tests, which he sent me links to. I filled it out. I told him that I had problems with anxiety and that I had autism. And then he dropped the bomb on me that we can't recommend you for a full-time mission. And what really hurt the most, that really just felt like a punch to the gut, was when he said, we don't normally send people with autism on missions. That hurt quite a bit. And after he said that, I just hung up the call and just felt so defeated. I didn't even tell my parents about it for a few days, but my parents have been the most help with my disabilities out of anyone in this world, because it was 2 days later on a Sunday, they came up to my room and they just said, hey, Jeffrey, we know what happened with your mission call. We're really sorry. We know that this is hard for you, but this isn't the end. And I was really, I thought it was, because this is what I was telling everybody when I was in high school. I told them that after graduation, I want to be a missionary. Yeah. And I also remember at a scholarship awards night, after I received one from the FFA, I was like, the teacher who was being the announcer said, Jeffrey plans to serve a 2-year mission. And I just had to be like, yeah. Just gonna suck it up.
What do you think of that policy?
What policy?
The fact that they were saying they typically don't send people with autism out on missions. Do you think that's a fair policy? Do you think it's unreasonable? What's your stance on that, if you have one?
There's obviously good intentions behind it. Not everyone is meant to become a missionary. But, in the church, that's what, we're taught to do, especially with us young boys. I remember being in primary class and singing that song, I hope they call me on a mission. Da, 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 da. I mean, nothing against primary. Primary's cool. But, that was what I wanted my whole life. So, just having having that taken down from me because of my autism made me think, am I going to be okay in my life? Is this going to affect my other huge dreams, like being successful in college, being a good husband and a loving father, and being as successful? Because I'm in video productions. I want to make actual movies as a director. And could that, get in the way a bit? And there's a lot of uncertainties, but I've tried to, cope with it and learn to accept it. And I think therapy has definitely helped for me. Seeing a therapist has helped. One time I tried to go to a autism support group on campus, and because I was just going to be like, yeah, guys, autism sucks. It's just worse. How am I going to, let's talk about what we can do to overcome autism. But then when I got into the group, it was mostly just, I don't normally say this because it sounds rude, but a lot of sob stories from other students with autism. And then I remembered, oh yeah, there's no cure for autism. So I just said it wasn't for me. And my parents, they helped me decide to go to college because I already got accepted into BYU Idaho, which getting accepted into this school is idiot proof, to be honest. And I knew it was right for me because it was, the expectations of academically are not so high. Like I think it's right for my level and my learning skills, and it's with the spirit and on campus, I always feel some kind of closeness to God, and I feel like I'm where he wants me to be. But college is also really isn't easy, especially for people with autism like me. But everyone just remind me that even though I'm doing what people can, which is to go to college, but there's a lot of things that make college suck, like anxiety, depression, the weather, adulting,
freezing cold, travels to classes, walks to classes,
all of that. But yeah, but depression is just like the worst of it, because depression really makes you feel like you're worthless. And sometimes things can seem great, but then when something bad happens, like one time I found out that I didn't complete all of the requirements for a final project that was supposed to be a whole semester long for a communications class. It was interpersonal communications. I just freaked out and started crying. And then as I was walking to my teacher's office to go there, I was just thinking, the Spory building is 3 stories high. Probably could jump off of that right there.
Oh my goodness.
I know it sounds dark, but I don't know.
It sounds dark, but it's also something legitimate that shouldn't be ignored.
Intrusive thoughts, yeah. And also, I remember I took a mission prep class my first semester because I was thinking, hey, why not just do a semester and then try and reapply for the mission? But then I started taking that class, and then suddenly I realized I don't know if I want to serve anymore or not. Yeah. And then while at the same time everyone in that class is opening their mission calls and everyone's cheering and clapping for them, and I started having suicidal thoughts, which scared me, and I pretty surely I just ran all the way to the student health center already. That's in tears. Good. And the school's been great. It helped me get into find therapy. I don't do it with the school anymore. I have a private therapist, but that's good. The school's very helpful with that, and I love how they've helped me with my mental health problems. And one of the psychiatrists on school campus helped me get my Lexapro, which I'm not ashamed to admit that I take antidepressants. Doesn't make me any less of a person or any less strong, because I was originally not for that, taking medicine, just because I don't know, medications and stuff is a subject I'm a little skeptical of, but my dad had to tell me, hey, people take medicine every day so they can function. So I did, and
Did it help you?
It definitely helped me, so I didn't have thoughts of hurting myself.
That's good.
And
Yeah, suicide is a terrible, terrible thing, and it's something I don't think that people talk enough about. And so what happens is it just gets pushed to the side, and people start thinking and feeling this way, and they feel like they're alone. And next thing, before you know it, you lost a loved one, you lost a friend, you lost a family member. It's something we have to be. I have personal goals to make an influence and make a dent in the suicide issue. Ever since COVID, and I knew when we were shutting down the government and the economy and all this stuff, we didn't shut down the government, but you know what I mean. Like, we shut down our country, we shut down our production.
Mm-hmm.
I knew with everyone staying inside and work being on an all-time low and all these things, that we were going to have issues with people going through very bad depressive episodes that would lead to suicide. And sure enough, since 2020, spike in suicide. It's tragic. It's tragic. So I'm grateful that you didn't make that choice to harm yourself, but you made the choice, which is the stronger and the harder choice to make, to stay. And that's what I want to leave with everyone that's watching this. If you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, we'll make sure to put the suicide hotline in this video. Probably, I don't know if we can add a card in the top corner, but it'll at least be in the description down below. Please talk with people. Please talk with us if you have thoughts of suicide, and we'll do the best we can. But really, you need a professional.
And just remember that when you think of ending your life, you don't really want to end your life. You just
want the pain to stop.
We want to end our pain, and there's right ways to do it. And I'm glad I found that way. And with back to the mission thing, someone that really helped me get through that class and not keep worrying about it anymore was the teacher. His name was Brother Maservi, Jeffrey Maservi. He was a fantastic teacher, and he took me aside, and I told him everything that I was feeling, and he said, hey, we know that not everyone who takes this class is going to serve a mission. The class is to help you be a more righteous member and a better disciple. And that helped me get through the class.
That's
and
awesome.
I was very happy when I finished it. And recently I've been putting more thought into becoming a service missionary, because it's hard for me to trust the mission system again. But I'm trying to remember why. But I'm remembering why I even wanted to do it in the first place. And that was because everyone who I'd ever known who's a missionary says this was the best decision I've ever made. And I wanted to do it like my dad did. My dad served all the way in frickin' Costa Rica.
That's awesome.
I love Costa Rica.
Pura vida.
Pura vida.
Pura vida.
Pura vida. I'm glad you know that as well. And I was also because I wanted to get out of the country. I wanted to travel someplace else, because once I was in high school, I thought anytime soon the next civil war in America is going to break out. So
hopefully
how about
not.
I hope not. So I'm hoping I can just fly and serve my mission, and then if things get so bad in America, I could just not go back. I can just go live in Africa and meet a older woman who wants to have my babies. That's a story from a classmate of mine.
You heard it here, folks.
That's a story from a classmate of mine. I didn't just make that up all on my own.
Hey, that's fine.
Always options and solutions to problems. That's all we're saying. That's it.
So what we're going to move on to is, in the church, it's not uncommon for people to have some resentment towards people that disagree on the topic of gay marriage. So I'll just ask the question: should gay marriage be legally allowed in our country? Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
What do you say?
Well, hold on. Let me think about it.
Well, you said
I haven't thought
no.
about it. Yeah, because I'm thinking from a Christian standpoint, but at the same time, it's like it doesn't affect me. If anything, it just puts a worse light on Christianity. Not that Christianity's going to tank if we take one position or not, but should it be allowed? Is that the question in all 50 states?
Yeah, should it be legal?
Well, it already is. So, but do you think it should remain legal?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it is, like, why go back? I don't think that's a battle worth fighting. But if it wasn't legal, if it was illegal, I'd say keep it illegal. Man, I'm giving an answer like a.
How come? How come you say if it's illegal, keep it illegal? Just wondering.
For my Christian views, that's not within God's commandments, but we also have agency.
Mm-hmm.
So, my final answer. Sorry for rambling. I'm being a girl about this. Shout out girls, by the way. They're amazing. I really like them.
He wants to find one and marry her.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Like I
in
said,
this,
there's always
good luck in
there's
this
always
university.
answers. My final answer: should it be legal? About to shock the world. Yes.
Okay.
I went from no to yes.
Okay, so we
And
agree.
My own
in 2
internal
minutes.
struggle that you guys got to witness.
Turns out the both of us agree quite a bit on things.
I think so. I think, honestly, hold on. 'Cause I think that two different sides agree a lot more than they think.
Yes.
That's what we're finding out right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. Give me some knucks. There we go. Look at that.
His
Awesome.
We're
knuckles.
changing the world with knuckles.
See that? We got the progressive and the conservative bumping knuckles.
Look how conservative I am, bro. Look at this. We
That's
didn't give it a shout out to the flags.
That's
We
not
updated
conservative. That's
our
comedy
decor.
right there. Except George Washington looks like he's from Arcane or something.
Yeah, that's true. But
It's also not
invested in some decor.
I love my flag.
I like all the flags, but I like mine second best because that's the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's fine. This was their background they chose for me.
Yeah. He didn't pick
I
it.
like how he's saying
I think-
He's like, I do not
The
associate with
flag's
the American
fine.
flag.
I'm an I am an American, but I didn't choose to be born here, and
I'm
I've
just
said
teasing you.
I've been called anti-American before.
I'm gonna get it. No, I'm not gonna say that on there.
Okay.
Getting a little off topic.
Yeah.
though,
So,
about,
so what is your rationale? What makes your opinion different than what was considered stereotypical or orthodox for our church?
Well, quite a bit of it is a bit of what he said, is that it doesn't affect me. It doesn't hurt anybody, whether people want to make their own choice. I believe God gave us, sent us here on earth and gave us bodies for our own free will and to make our own decisions, whether they're for the church or not. I personally, in my life, don't believe that being gay is wrong. And first of all, is because I don't give any kind of hoot what happens behind closed doors with consenting adults. What happens in the bedroom stays in the bedroom, kaput, no one's business.
There's a bug, yeah.
Screw off. And people, if someone wants to be happy with who they're with, who am I to intervene in someone's personal choice? And I have family who are in the LGBTQ community. My uncle, he's gay, and he's awesome. He's such a cool guy who travels all around the world for his work, and he's such a great guy. I always love seeing him around the holidays. And I have two cousins who are trans as well. I know transgenderism is a different topic, but one of them is female to male and one of them is male to female. And I love them regardless because they're family, and we talk to each other and we make each other laugh, and it's what's important to me. And I believe God says to love your neighbor. That's the most important. I believe that's the most important thing of all in following God's plan and being a Christian, because sometimes I find it hard to call myself a Christian just because of a lot of the hate that Christian churches and denominations have put out into the world. But they don't represent all.
Yeah.
They don't represent all of us, just like how one person who molest a child doesn't make them doesn't represent all of the LGBT community.
Right.
That's, I feel like has been, not as much anymore, but 2 years ago, that was very heavily pushed in the conservative media. And Also, if I remember, Jesus said, "If any of you be perfect, cast the first stone."
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's great. I'm going to shock the world here. I'm going to actually take the stance that the libertarians take, which is that government should get the hell out of marriage.
Boom! I
Yes.
like that. Sorry, I just spiked the audio.
I had
Yes,
to say it
agree.
needed the extra emphasis. So, but that's the thing.
Dang it, I don't like my response.
Your response
That's totally
was
something I would have said.
your response was fine. It was respectful.
I totally anticipated you to say no, and I know you were going to say yes. We talked about this before the interview and
Yes, we
everything.
did.
If you're taking the third stance like government, you can go.
But
yeah.
see, this is the stance I've always had, and that's because what is marriage? Marriage, orthodox marriage is marriage between two
man and a
people.
woman.
Yeah, like when you really want to get down to it.
I've taken a eternal family class. The teacher was very persistent to say that a family is between man and woman,
Right.
and that the legalization of gay marriage rejects God's definition of marriage.
Right.
I can understand that,
Which-
but I also believe in difference between God's law and government law.
Right, and that's where
And
we're getting at here.
I believe that if you want true equality, I'm, huge believer in equality for everybody, like using the same terms.
So, so real quick, I want to finish my thought. So, basically, what I'm saying is, I do believe that marriage is between a man and a woman because that's my Christian belief, and that is based under that. God created Adam and Eve, and He said that this is how the family is to look. Basically, and so that's. I know He didn't literally say that. That's what's happened. Is He says a man and a woman shall cling to each other and become one flesh.
And I believe
So
that too.
that's His ratification of, and we have other documents as Latter-day Saints that also agree with that reaffirm marriage is between a man and a woman. That being said, I'm going to say that marriage, from the worldly definition, is just the bonding of two people together. They're committing their lives together. But a really important part of marriage is a covenant between God. It's actually a three-party process. So, my wife and I, we have a covenant between each other to, always stand up for each other, to always, be united, to love each other, to serve each other, and to honor God in our marriage. In that marriage is also the Lord. The Lord has made a covenant with all of us, with my wife and I, to make sure that we have His power in our marriage if we're living the way He has set forth for us to live. So it's a three-way promise. Do you want to know who isn't involved in that process?
Tell us.
Uncle Sam.
Government.
Uncle Sam is not anywhere to be found in that triangle. Okay? So what happens is at the top, you've got God, and He is directing you how to live a perfect life, how to perfect your marriage. And you have your spouse and yourself at either end of the bottom corner of the triangle. As you and your spouse come together, you're going to inevitably come closer to God. So you're going to rise from those bottom two corners, and you're going to slide up the sides of the triangle until you reach the pinnacle, or at least get really close to it. That's the message behind marriage, okay, is that you are seeking to come closer to each other as simultaneously you are seeking to come closer to God. Now, if you can find a pastor that will wed a man and a woman and a woman, I say let it be. I disagree with that pastor's decision. However, if you find a pastor, or I'm fine with, the state providing marriage certificates and stuff like that, in the sense of, my parents, when they were first married, they did a justice of the peace. So you go to a court and they had pronounced you married. It's a legal I'm fine with that. But the government should not be legislating marriage. It should be your decision. You should not need a marriage license. You should receive a marriage certificate. There's a difference. A license is I'm asking the government for permission. A certificate is you have received A, or you have completed B, or you have met the requirements for C.
Is that how it works? Where
Yes.
I have to.
Yep.
I gotta ask the government permission to marry my
Yep.
wife.
Yep. You have to pay a fee.
How much?
It depends. I'm trying to remember what it was. I think
Can I
it.
swear? I'm not gonna swear.
No,
but
you don't need to.
Pretend I swore.
If I can't,
Dang
then you
it.
can't either.
The shuckly bucks. Darn.
Shiver me timbers.
I think I think I've heard that from like a 70s or 80s movie.
Yeah. You want to dance, hot dog? Sorry.
What kind of
But frick the government. Screw those.
What is hot dog a euphemism for?
But basically, that's what I'm getting at is I take the libertarian stance. I think the government needs to get the heck out of marriage. Yeah. And then marriage, again, you leave it up to church. And I'm fine with the state providing marriage ceremonies through justice of the peace. I'm fine with that. But that's my piece. Yeah. That's it.
Yep. I don't have much to say. I totally agree on that.
Sweet.
Do we need a license to get sealed in the temple?
Yeah.
Why?
You need to get the license ahead of time because that's what they've dictated. So you get the license, and you can't get sealed in the temple unless you have the license with you.
Is that right?
Because it's the law. The temple, it doesn't change to the court. The court doesn't care whether it was in the temple or in a grassy knoll, or it doesn't matter.
So I got to get a $70 legal license.
Yeah, it varies.
To get sealed for eternity.
Mm-hmm.
Does it cost more based on if you're marrying if it's a straight marriage or same-sex marriage?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know of any state that does that. But depending on the state, yes, they charge more or less. Like California charges more than average, from what I understand. So, but anyway, so you said you didn't
know. The more pissed off you get.
So you didn't have anything to add to that. Did you have any comments you wanted to add?
Yeah. Any government official watching this right now, you suck. except
for this and other reasons.
Family members and stuff, but I'm in a mood now.
Yeah, you are.
I also want to say, didn't you remember I think was it this week or last week? The decision from the Supreme Court to not overturn looking at the same Supreme Court case that made same-sex marriage legal. They're not going to revisit that or overturn it.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at that case, decision. So I don't have any comments for it. But honestly, from what I understand, I don't have any problem with that, and I'm not shocked by it. Again, I'm not on a personal vendetta to try to restrict gay people or other from marrying how they want to marry.
Don't worry, I believe you.
Can I adopt your political stance on this?
Yeah.
Can
I don't have a copyright on it.
Okay.
I literally said it's libertarian.
I don't want to be a copycat, but I'm going to copycat this.
It's one of the
really good point.
It's one of
nobody
the few,
nobody has a reserve on different beliefs.
Yeah, this is one of the few libertarian ideas that I actually subscribe to. Because most of the time the libertarian view is like prostitution should be legal, pornography should be legal, like all these different things, and you start going down the list, drug use, all these things, and they think people should be able to decide for themselves. Well, that doesn't mean we legalize murder. There is a point where, yes, we are legislating morality, and we need to do that. There is a point where a line needs to be drawn in the sand. You cannot do A, B, C, D. But we get to a point where we over-legislate, and it just complicates the whole thing. It confounds the whole justice system, which, by the way, a lot of people are unhappy with right now. We don't feel like our justice system is serving the purpose it was designed to, and it's because, at least in some cases, it's not.
By the way, murder is legal. It's called abortion. Wonder if that crazy weed chick is going to come after us again.
We had someone that was very hateful and posted a comment. We talked about it and just kind of broke down.
Yeah, I'm not trying to open a can of worms. I'm just pushing.
Oh, you definitely are trying to open a can of worms.
I'm gonna move.
We're gonna move on.
We should move on.
So we've talked enough about.
We'll talk about this later because I would have a lot to say on that.
Yeah, on abortion. Yeah,
but we have topics we want to.
We've talked about abortion on a different episode.
I've done a lot of research about abortion.
So we're gonna get into the Electoral College. Mm-hmm. And we'll transition into Zohran Mamdani and socialism. Mm-hmm. So what is, we're going to make it fit. What is the Electoral College?
The Electoral College?
Yeah.
It's the system we use for the election.
The presidential election.
It's being constantly challenged because of how undemocratic it is.
Mm-hmm. That is true. That's true. So I want to dispel a myth. Aiden's busted into the food to help with the rage. So...
I'd be eating this thing so weird, bro.
So, we have a constitutional republic. It does have elements of democracy in it. The elements of democracy are shown when you are basically voting for something yourself. So, if you're voting for a proposition to go into your state, like in Idaho, people voted against Prop 1, which I'm very glad that happened. That prevented ranked voting from going into our election system. And that was something that all the people literally got to vote on. So you had, let's say, 100,000 people that went and voted, and all of them, majority of them, it was like a 75-25 issue. Majority of them voted against Prop 1. That's called democracy. So every vote that was cast was represented by a person, and that vote went directly to the issue and decided the issue. Okay, so whoever had whatever issue had the majority of the votes gets put in place, or if it doesn't get a majority, then it's not enacted. It was voted out. Most of our governance is in a non or limited democratic method. Okay, so now there's another method I'm going to introduce, and that is a Republican method. This is a method of representation. So this happens when you vote for a representative in your state, and that representative votes a law in. You can't make the decision on the law that they passed or didn't pass, but you do get to vote them out next time if you don't like their decision. That's a representative form of government. It is inherently non-democratic. Very little of our election process is democratic, and it's become more and more democratic over the years, which, by the way, is not a good thing. That's going to be a controversial issue. Democracy is the reason that our founders, I don't know if you're aware of this, Jeffrey, but the reason our founders did not make a democracy was because democracies are inherently fall victim to two ills: the tyranny of the majority, and they devolve into tyrannies too. They typically get dictators. So think of it, it's basically you'd be looking at like Nazi Germany. You would end up with someone that's really enthusiastic, and people vote him in, and next thing he takes control of everything. Like, that is one of the problems with democratic rule in just times far gone. And it doesn't take long for it to devolve into tyranny like that. Now, what do I mean with the tyranny of the majority? That is where just because 51% of the people say, I want to have abortion banned, this is going to be a good way of dictating this or depicting this. 51% of people say, I want abortion banned. The tyranny of the majority says that the 49% of people just got overruled by 51%. And that is by default a tyranny. Democracy is inherently, problematic when it comes to tyranny like that. That's the reason why they didn't base the system off of the popular vote when it comes to the president, and a lot of other things too. But basically, they built the Electoral College to be based off of geographic regions, and each geographic region has a vote. And that's partly to balance out small states, because you don't want the big states just bullying themselves through and making it to where the little states don't get a say. That's part of the reason why little states get so much more representation per capita, which means per 100,000 people, than do larger states. And they complain about that. But again, think about how many delegates Texas and California get.
They got like 40 each.
If you flip California to one side or the other, if you flip it to the right would win an election every year. If you flip Texas left, which is, by the way, happening,
screw you, Austin,
then you're going to have the left winning every presidential election. That's the whole reason why the smaller states get so much representation. If you take away the Electoral College, what you do is you empower the most populous regions. So all it would be is candidates would go to LA, New York, they'd go to probably Houston and Austin and different places like that. They'd go to Nashville, I believe, would be another option. Just the most populous cities in our nation, and they would only campaign there. Screw all the little guys.
You're saying if we didn't have the Electoral College?
It's the sole reason that the founders installed that system. So when we talk about getting rid of the Electoral College, I just want that to be on the table so that way we can be aware of all these different facts. Because what people will say is, it's not democratic. True, that's not an ill of the system. It's one of the benefits of the system. And then the other things are, oh, look, Hillary Clinton would have gotten the popular vote, or she did get the popular vote. She would have been president in 2016 and not Trump.
That's a buzzer beater.
Stuff like that happens.
Yeah,
and so people get raged about the fact that, well, majority of people wanted this person. That's an evidence that the system is flawed. No, it's not. Because it's finding the balance between a democratic system and a representative system by geographic region.
You still failed to convince. Well, you've.
I'm not
I think
trying
we
to
can
convince
agree
you.
that it's undemocratic, but
Yeah.
you failed to convince me how having majority being to say is a bad thing, because I still don't understand why one elector in Wyoming, which would count for 100,000 people, whereas in California, one elector is worth 400,000 people.
Yes.
Why should that not be? Because that would, if it was equal, because I believe that, where people live the most, which has the most population, it should, don't they deserve a bigger say? I mean, I'm not trying to rule out small states or anything, but also we get a lot of swing states, which, I think the idea of swing states is messed up by how.
Why?
Because a candidate can just only campaign in a few states and not care about the rest of the country, because literally nowhere else matters but swing state.
You do realize, though, that the only reason why it's a swing state, they change every year. The reason why it's a swing state is because those are the states where people are neck and neck on who they're going to vote for. Yeah. So they do polling ahead of time, and they're like, oh, wow, it's within a couple of percentage points. That's the reason why those states are swing states. It's not something that the system builds. So Idaho would be a swing state if people in Idaho were more on the fence about issues, or it had an even populace of 50% Republican, 50% Democrat, and you've got room for independent in the middle there.
Thank the heavens we're not.
That's just inherent in the way people vote in certain regions. So the only thing that would change swing states from being a swing state or not is who's running, what issues were taking place during the election and prior, and probably who the incumbent was, which is the prior president or the current sitting president, and who moves there. If the demographics of a state change, you're going to have changes to a swing state.
Right.
So now there are states that frequently are swing states, but they change every year.
Jeffrey, would you have preferred Hillary Clinton win over Trump?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I definitely would, but that doesn't mean I agree that Hillary is a good candidate for the Democratic Party.
Most people
or a
don't
good
like
representation of the left, because by no means she isn't. And that was the same problem with Kamala and Joe Biden being obviously, especially Kamala Harris.
But you do admit that a lot of the criticism that's levied at them, and
but
even
I do
Obama,
think it's messed up that I do think there's something wrong with Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote, but Trump taking the win. I don't see what. I don't see like.
Would you say that's the same way? Would you say the same thing if Hillary would have won the Electoral College, but Trump would have won popular vote? Would you be saying the same thing?
No, I wouldn't, because it would be both ways. You have to be fair at this.
I think you're saying you would say the same thing.
Yes, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. Just because I'm a leftist doesn't make me a Democrat. Right?
But isn't it accurate if I say that part of the reason you're dissatisfied with Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and maybe even Obama, I don't think you have that feeling, but a lot of people are going to start having that feeling about Obama, it sounds like, and some have, that they didn't go far left enough. That's been the thing I hear a lot, at least from our age range. People that are on the left, that are our age range, I'm hearing them say, those guys didn't go far enough. They were cowards. They were too soft. Is that something you can agree with, or do you think that's
Yeah, pretty much, especially with Kamala Harris.
Okay.
To be honest, I don't know enough about Hillary enough in her past or her work in the Obama administration, and I was only a kid when her campaign was going in, and all the kids at school were just saying vote Trump because that's what their parents were saying. But also, I want to go back to in the Electoral College, there's a thing as faithless electors where this isn't supposed to happen, but there are states and where electors can just, rather than voting for who they're supposed to from the college, and they just vote for whoever they wish to. It's happened over 80 times, and that's That's a huge problem with
Yes.
the Electoral College.
It's identical to when you vote for a representative or a senator and they don't vote for a law you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So what you are literally doing in the Electoral College is you are voting for a delegate. That's their 270 delegates. It is an actual person. How many people know that? It's an actual person. You just don't know their name.
Obviously. Yeah.
But you didn't vote for Trump when you voted in 2016 and when you voted in 2020 and 2024. You never voted for Trump. You voted for a delegate. And that delegate was in your region. That's why they map out all the regions. There's a delegate per region. So you voted for that delegate in that region. And what will happen is, popular vote, but that's where we do see popular vote is at the state level. So popular vote in that region was Trump. And if enough delegates in a state win, enough percentage in the state, then all the delegates go to that candidate. But you're right, they're still an individual, just like a representative or a senator, they could defect.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very common.
But it has happened.
But it has happened. And I'm not aware of any time where it's actually been pivotal to someone winning. But that is something that you do have to be aware of because that's how our system is set up. It is not a democratic system. So what we are arguing here is we want to make it a democratic system.
But what is there set in place to prevent faithless electors from happening?
They lose their jobs, and then we don't vote them in the next term.
I honestly don't know. Yeah.
Every delegate has one chance to screw up like that. They can swing their state the way that the state didn't vote. They can do that. They can get away with it, and then we're not going to vote for them, and they know that. So it's job security.
What electoral colleges do is it makes it the most difficult to rig. Because it's not just about pumping votes into the system. Now you can do that,
but we still
you have
have
to
rigging
strategically
in our
do
election
it
with gerrymandering. Which
that's
is
true.
What
That's
Prop
true.
50 was all about.
Which we would agree on that. I think it should just be squares and rectangles, and I don't think you should make it based off of, all these different demographic polling.
Yeah.
You should just have this community, and maybe there's stuff like, this community. This is a suburb, and so they're going to be in a region. This is in a different suburb. They're separated, isolated communities. The whole concept is then you're voting for something that's impacting your community.
No.
Whereas if your neighbor over here isn't impacted by what happens over here, someone lives in the nice part of town, but someone lives in the crummy part of town, and you're voting for legislation that screws over the little guy, there's a problem there. So you want your community, it's just like a jury of your peers. You want your community to reflect your background in your community.
You know what's interesting? Sorry, you first.
I do agree with you, Jeffrey, that there is rigging within presidential elections, like 2020.
Which brings
That
me
one was
to,
rigged.
but
That was the second election that Trump won. Trump just won his third in 2020.
You do realize, though, that with all the gerrymandering that does happen, it kind of just equalizes at that point. It kind of just equalizes because everyone's gerrymandering.
Both sides gerrymander.
that's true. Yes. But
It's kind of just what happens. It sucks.
there is something interesting that would happen with. Have you heard of Prop 50 in California? That was
I
a
haven't.
big win. Was that
when they got the extra
it was
5
an-
seats?
Yes, it was in opposition to Texas.
Yeah.
Texas, they gerrymandered their states, so they redrew their districts so that it adds 5 additional Republican seats. So California, Gavin Newsom decides we're going to do the same. We're going to add 5 additional seats for Democrats, but we let the people decide. The Texas government, they didn't do that. They didn't get the insight from the people, but we had Proposition 50, which the citizens of California, they voted on, and this is their decision. And what's interesting about the districts that are being redrawn is that they're meant to connect the more conservative places, like conservative areas like in Northern California, with the more left-leaning liberal Bay Area.
Well, you do have to remember that Texas doesn't have that law. California has the law. They have to go through the process. They have to vote for it.
If we actually
But
look at
Texas doesn't have that requirement, and that's why they did it. You also have you looked at both maps? I've seen I'm from California. I've seen California's map. They do gerrymander over there.
Yeah, everyone does it.
The worst one I've seen was Illinois. That one, there's literally a part where it stretches across the state.
But
and it cuts
the
down.
difference
It's the
between
weirdest thing I've ever seen.
But again, the difference between California is that it was their choice. The proposed redrawing of the map was there. And I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of I'm not a huge fan of Democrats and Republicans redrawing the districts because, I mean, obviously that's rigging. It should be done by an independent group and party.
There's no
But
way you can get an independent group, though. There's always going to be bias.
Well, then
That's the tough thing. I agree with you. I agree with the sentiment. I don't think this is a realistic application.
Well, just because it's like realistic doesn't mean that it can't happen. There's no possibility of that happening, and this was also voted by Californians to redraw the districts and combine and make it and have more fair representation and different voices in different districts.
California would vote to redraw that.
Because if you look at Texas and California are not exactly so distinctly red and blue. They're very much purple states. Pretty much most of America is.
Okay, we're going to show an image of Texas's map. Take a look at that real quick. Does that look like a gerrymandered state to you?
This is the recent one?
This is the recently voted on Texas map. Can I tell you?
Quite
90% of the districts are perfect squares.
There are quite a few, yeah, but some of these also are not.
So, and then I'm going to pull up California.
But it's very clear looking at like the current districts and the proposed districts, they're clearly trying to include more diversity and not just separate.
What do you mean?
Wait, what do you mean?
Texas or California?
California, both maps, the current and the proposed one. Like, here, check that out.
That's the current district. That's proposed.
Definitely combining the coast with the north. Devin, here, how you like them apples?
Okay, so what you notice in this map is they actually consolidate a lot of the conservative regions of the map.
Are you talking about the proposed one or the current one?
The proposed. So current, what you'll see is on the proposed, you have the green region on the top corner, on the top part of California, Northern California. Green goes south and over towards the coastline. Why do you think it does that? Because blue is the blue voters reside on the coast.
Can you show it to me and then
right
point
here?
It out?
So you've got green up on the top, and it cuts down on the left-hand side, down the coast. That's to compensate for the red voters in Northern California. Northern California has always been notorious for being more Republican, more right-leaning. They have always talked about the state of Jefferson, which they would hope to basically cut off the northern part of California from Southern California and form a separate state.
I'm well aware of that.
The audience members might not.
State of Jefferson is huge in my county. Even though I'm from California, I grew up in a very red Trump-loving town. I've seen very few Trump flags like in this town than I did, but I've seen like 10 times more in my hometown. Everyone just really likes Trump there.
So what you're seeing is they've reduced the amount of the conservative representation, which is on mostly the eastern and northern fronts of California. That's where the biggest regions are. Now, that brown region is also a lot more rural. So that's part of the reason that they're doing that. But what they're doing is they're increasing representation in the liberal areas, and that's why you see all the little tiny areas on the left side of California, on the west side of California, near the coastline. That's what they're doing here. I'm not unfamiliar to these games they're playing here. So that's the reason why you're seeing look at those really tiny districts down there near, is that LA? Mm-hmm. That might be south enough towards San Diego actually, but I think that is LA.
Of course it's smaller because it's more densely populated.
Yeah. But look at what the proposed was. Mm-hmm. The difference between those two right there.
Yeah, I'm looking
You're talking. It's not even close. Not even close. We'll show those two maps. We'll let the audience decide. You guys can vote. We'll have left and right on the audience. You guys can put your vote in on what you think is the most fair map.
Yeah, no, that's the first thing I noticed. What I wanted to know was like the populations of the north versus that little strip of coast that they're.
Yeah.
That's 100%. They're just trying to silence the red voters in the north.
It wasn't there on the current map, which current is, I don't know if they've implemented this yet when this goes into effect. They did pass this, though. So out of this, They're getting 5 more. By the way, California is not even as bad as Illinois.
I still don't see
Illinois.
how combining like the coast and the north is silencing conservative
It
voters.
is.
If you'd like to, could you explain, please?
What it's doing is it's roping in people from a community that is conservative. And instead of being true to the geographic area, again, all we have to do is pull up the Texas map again. We'll pull it up right here. You've got majority of these areas are fair squares or rectangles, and they're consistent in shape and they go across the state. But you don't see that with the California map.
Yeah,
You're seeing regions that what they're trying to do is they're trying to take all of these red voters and they're trying to pull in high density left-leaning voters from the coastline to compensate and overcome the red leaning in the northern part of California. That's the reason I have a problem with it. If it was just, okay, you had boxes of Northern California, so now they have their own representation, and even if it's less populated, they'll be bigger squares. That's what happens. You make it a bigger square if there's more population. But once you get down to the coast, they still need to be squares. They still need to be even, consistent shapes. You don't see that, though. And you can look at the proposed California map compared to what it used to be, and you're going to see that they like to slither their way around and get to the areas that will overwhelm the vote that they don't want to have. That's what's going on. And that's what I'm not in favor of. That is gerrymandering, and I'm against that. I'm against lobbying. I think these things are grotesque flaws and illnesses of our society.
Yes, absolutely. But I also, again, want to stretch the difference between California and Texas. Yes, Texas may have like perfectly square districts, but that doesn't change the fact either that they were the first ones to gerrymander 5 new Republican districts without the votes of people.
Again,
This was something they proposed on their own. Prop 50 was so Californian citizens could decide.
The real easy reason people have had an issue with the Texas one is that they did it before a census. Typically, they redistrict when you get new information about where the populace is living. You get updates on how many people are living in our country, in our state. And so you are able to basically correct some of the misrepresentation in the districts through that. That doesn't mean they have to do it on a divisible by 10 year, on a census year. So that's not the issue that most people are making. They're not making it that, people didn't get to vote for this. Again, it's their law there. In California, it's the law. You have to vote on it. I'm fine with that, by the way. I'm in favor of letting citizens decide yay or nay on the voting, on the districts. But that's not the system that Texas has in place. They didn't do something illegal. So why is that seen as an issue?
Well, I think it's because most Americans believe gerrymandering should be illegal.
But did they gerrymander?
Did they gerrymander? I mean, didn't they redraw the districts to favor their own political party?
That doesn't mean that they gerrymandered.
That's gerrymandering.
That does not mean that
did they do that? Did they?
They
yes
yeah,
or no?
they did redistrict.
Then that's for their own party's benefit.
Hey, I get where you're saying. I get where you're coming from. I'm letting people know. If you compare the two maps, I think it's pretty clear which state is plagued with gerrymandering. And I'm from California. I'm familiar with the things that go on politically there. It's why I left. It's why I live in Idaho now.
Yeah, and I'm from California too. And I don't like the state of Idaho very much.
So that's what I was trying to get at. We'll show Illinois. Illinois is fun. That's just homework there. Not homework. It's like the dessert. You get to enjoy the eye candy there. Gerrymandering is wrong. I disagree with it. I think we're in agreement with those things.
Yeah, I'm not arguing. I don't want to eat with the microphone near me.
We're almost done anyway.
I've been in radio class, so
for
I'm sensitive about this stuff.
They're yummy.
They're very good.
The final hit we're gonna make. This has been great. I've loved this conversation.
We got time for the final hit?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been an hour.
Our poor editors.
It's been an hour, right? Hour 10 minutes. Okay. We're gonna just be quick about this, but we take the lead. Zohran Mamdani.
Okay, say that.
We disagree that he is going to be a benefit to New York City. I predict that New York City will see an egress, an emigration, meaning the opposite of immigration, a leaving of the richest and the wealthiest and the well-off.
I 100%.
In
And
New
what
York.
do you and who
Within
do you
the
think
first
is gonna
few months.
who do you think is gonna emigrate? The rich or
The rich.
The rich.
Okay.
The rich are going to leave New York.
Okay, so be it.
So be it. Do you know what's going to happen after the rich leave New York?
The city is going to fall apart.
The city will fall apart.
With crime, you're going to have problems with, I think, Islamic extremism
Islamic extremism
and anti-Semitism.
I think that's horse crap.
Yeah, you can say that. But that's what I think is going to happen. I think that they've just made a very, very big mistake electing the first Democratic Socialist as mayor in New York City. And I think people are going to realize what free buses and free groceries and free healthcare and free rent is going to cost them.
Why do you like that he got elected, Jeffrey? I hear you, by the way, Devin. I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
but
I'm good.
I like that he was elected because he was the best choice, because this is what his campaign promises were: universal child care, free public buses, rent freezes, more public housing, tax increases, which is a 2% tax on the highest earners, funding challenges, Texas plans would require approval from New York legislator and Governor Kathy.
Yeah, no, his competitor
And then public
sucks.
safety have police reforms, which would disband units or break up protest, support and build public Renewables Act, and keep ICE out of the city. I mean, you guys
That is
that
crazy.
That's
alone.
That is a horrible idea.
That alone is going to cause so much havoc in
and
New York City.
I feel like
Thank
you're
goodness
just
the illegal aliens have to get through the rest of the United States to get to New York. I hope
Oh,
ICE
please.
takes care
Oh,
of them before they
please.
get there.
the governor,
Are you forgetting that America is founded by immigrants?
the
too?
governor.
So is every other state on the face of this earth.
Yeah, but
Every country.
it has to be done at a reasonable rate. If we don't get it done at a reasonable
I
rate,
don't
we
see
will
how-
overwhelm the system.
You don't see how a man who's a Muslim, not really practicing that much, is gonna put Islamic.
he went to a mosque
extremism-
recently. I do think he is practicing.
I mean, he smoked weed. I don't think weed is like allowed in Islam and stuff.
I don't
And I
know.
mean,
He's
his
not
wife's.
allowed in the church, but-
I'm not saying
That's
just
beside
because
the
he's a Muslim that makes him unfit for
Well,
candidacy.
I think
Yeah,
you're
I'm
saying
saying-
that it's going to lead it to an increase in anti-Semitism and
I-
Islamic extremism. He is openly condemned anti-Semitism, and
Jeffrey,
despite
what was the
and
point
I
you're trying to
believe a lot of what rabbis in New York have just been against Mamdani just because he doesn't support Israel. And why should we support
don't care.
Israel?
Yeah.
Because they're leading a whole genocide right now.
Yeah, I don't care if he doesn't support Israel. That's not a problem.
And how are free transportation, free child care, and a 2% tax increase going to lead to massive crime?
Nothing-
That right
and
there
stuff.
is
When
why
we've
that stuff
already-
isn't free. Nothing is ever free.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Okay, tell me.
Nothing's ever free. Like you said, the 2% tax increase. He promised. a
Yeah,
2%
for the
tax
highest
increase.
earners.
Yeah, and he's gonna exceed that promise and tax them even more than 2%.
I agree. I think
That's
he will raise
eventually what's
it.
gonna happen.
Well, if like the
And
rich
that's-
paid their fair share, then it would, because it's notable that billionaires famously don't pay anything
you-
in income tax.
Do you know what happens though with taxes? The companies pass it on to the. It's just like tariffs.
I do
It's
believe
just
taxes
like
need to
tariffs.
be done for good
Well,
things,
Jeffrey-
but this is what Mamdani is trying to do.
Let's think about this logically for a second, though. Let's tax the rich in New York. Let's do it. Let's tax them. Let's make them pay their fair share.
I love this, by the way.
They're
This
rich
is fun.
enough. They're gonna
What's
leave.
fun? Tell me.
Just having this conversation. I don't want anyone to think we're being, ill-willed
no,
about
of
this.
course,
We're having
absolutely.
a fun time.
This is a conversation.
Yeah.
I've had so many conversations in high school. We've been
Sorry.
at each other's throats.
I just wanted to interject and say that. Aiden, go ahead.
Let's
Aiden,
tax
you're
the
all good.
rich.
You're awesome, man.
Thanks, bro.
Continue. Sorry.
Let's tax the rich. I don't wear hats like that. I was trying to be sassy. Let's tax the rich. Let's tax the rich.
Mm-hmm.
In New York. They're rich enough, they're going to leave New York. They are not under those taxes anymore. They're going to get out of there.
No, Zohran says he will tax them out of state.
That guy's a moron, man. Because you know who's going to get taxed after that is the second class below them. And then maybe they'll leave if they have the money. Maybe they won't.
Because he'll have to lower the window for who he taxes. He's saying no. He's saying he'll have to lower the income window for when you get taxed that higher rate, because the people in that window are going to be leaving the city.
But there's no way all billionaires and millionaires are going to put in a mass exodus in New York. That's where the stock market is, and that's where all.
Did you know that Texas is 43%? I think they said of the stock market. They are moving the stock market to Texas, and they're doing that because of things like this.
Jeffrey, the point
and
I'm
I
trying
think
to
being
make is
sorry.
that the rich, they're going to leave because they're getting taxed. Then it's the next class under that's going to get taxed. They're going to leave.
Yep.
And it's going to get to the point where people aren't making enough. They don't have enough money to leave the state, and they're just getting heavily taxed. I mean, think about someone who's making a lot less than millions of dollars a year. There's still a set price on
I don't see that happening.
Free buses, free this, that, and the other.
It's going to cost someone something.
I don't see that happening in such a short period in the short term. I don't see that happening.
I hear the cries of Venezuela.
Yeah, Venezuela.
I don't even know. Was it like 4 years?
Yeah, okay. We always
5 years that it took.
We definitely use. Yeah. Okay, you use Venezuela as like an option. It was
USSR.
A social democracy. Okay, hold on.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Venezuela, yes, was a social democracy, but there's a reason why. The government, yes, they paid a lot for groceries and medicine and healthcare for our citizens, but there was something that was keeping. There was a way that the Venezuelan government could pay for that. And it worked for a long time, but it was with their oil prices and with their large amount of oil, because Venezuela has the biggest oil fields on this earth, and oil prices plummeted, and soon they didn't have the thing to pay for that. You know, and also the fact that Nicolas Maduro is completely corrupt, he runs the whole. There's nothing stopping him out of power because after he rewrote their constitution. And there are countries like Norway, Denmark, they're social democracies. They're social democracies.
Right.
Which means they implement capitalism, but they control the means of production. And it's worked very well. Norway, Sweden, Denmark. Yes, they do. They provide. They're the ones that provide schooling and healthcare.
They do have socialized medicine. They have socialized medicine. Which, by the way,
I believe is a good thing.
Nordic countries do not have true socialism.
I don't believe in 100% socialism or communism. I do believe in social democracy,
anyone who believes in communism is a complete moron. And if you're offended by that, you can come talk to me. You're an idiot.
I do agree.
Communism is cool. I'm talking to you, Kim Jong, whatever your face is. Idiot. He's not even a communist. There's never been a true communist country on this earth before.
That actually is true. Russia and China are pretty capitalist. They claim they're communists, but they're very much capitalists in this country.
So you're saying that America would do well if we were like the Nordic countries, that kind of a socialism, which isn't socialism at all?
I do. I do believe in social democracy.
You know how much
and I believe
tax,
that.
Though?
Yes,
That's
and
crazy.
you know why? And you know what the citizens say? They say that they love being taxed because they enjoy paying because they know it's going to something good and something that benefits them. But in America, we don't really have that because our tax dollars are going to complete bull crap like the ICE and like the 20,
ICE
which
is not much of the budget.
Literally, if like the whole and the military going and National Guard going into our cities, you know how much like all of the troops that are in Los Angeles cost like twice as much as it would take to house and shelter every homeless person in Los Angeles.
That's because crap goes down in Los Angeles.
70% of our budget is considered
despite crime being at an all-time low in the past few years, it's the troops in our cities. It's a fake crisis that Trump is using to justify himself getting more power.
I think we're straying from the point. I still want
Mamdani.
to understand your idea on the Nordic socialism, because that's not socialism.
I think it was Norway that said there aren't socialists.
I know. It's democratic socialism, which is a form of socialism.
Okay, socialism has three main parts to it. You can agree or disagree with me. This is what it is. They have a massive, efficient government. Okay. They have altruism, which is more important than profits. We agreeing so far?
Mm-hmm.
And then 3, the government owns the means of production.
There's more than that, but yeah.
Right. But under those 3 pillars, that's socialism. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. Nordic countries don't have that because there's private ownership that is funded by the government because of high taxation. That's not true socialism.
Okay, it doesn't have to be true socialism because I keep telling you it's social democracy, and I agree.
So
it's
what's
not
the difference then? Why is social democracy this perfect idea?
because it does. We can agree that capitalism causes for growth and innovation, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's what caused the West to thrive and become this big global superpower that we know.
Okay.
And you know, and social democracy or democratic socialism allows for that to happen.
Okay, what about the high taxes? That's still.
I already told you about the high taxes, that it's because they know their taxes are going to something good, because they want to support their government and their country. The people in there, they love their country. That's why they pay taxes and are willing to have it higher, and because they're going to do something to make it'll go something that'll make their lives better. I've said that a few times, but I don't think that's like resonating with you.
Do you think, I hear what you're saying, I think I get it more now. Do you think that our government is capable of spending our taxes as efficiently as Norway supposedly is?
Well, certainly not, because of who's in power right now, and that's why we gotta vote for. That's why we need to, vote. That's why you vote for the right people and not the corporate Democrats or the corporate Republicans. Those people you vote out.
You're saying Joe Biden gave us better tax?
No, he's saying he's not in favor of him.
I didn't
either.
say anything about Joe Biden. I never say anything about Joe Biden.
He doesn't favor Joe Biden. Kamala Harris. Well, I thought that's what you were saying was that they're part of the problem.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's saying Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and those individuals. He wants people like Zohran Mamdani.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt Biden was corrupt.
Huh?
There's no doubt Biden is corrupt.
Biden doesn't know how to spell corrupt. It was Kamala Harris.
Well, they're both are.
They're both ridiculous.
Hey, I said it so you can say it too.
They're both
restarted. That's a euphemism you could use.
I'm glad we could have fun and still disagree. I like that.
Of course.
Jeffrey is a stand-up comedian, just for anyone that was curious. So we've had fun
at home.
We've had fun.
I'm sitting down.
Around.
I'm about 4 foot in chair, but I'm like 5'11" standing.
I've never heard that before.
That was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I also wanted to go back because originally we were talking about Zohran Mamdani winning, but did either of you actually want Andrew Cuomo in office? Because Andrew Cuomo,
the last name Cuomo is a moron. And if you get offended by that, then you're an idiot, and you can come talk.
Oh, they're probably
no,
a Cuomo.
I agree with you.
They're probably a Cuomo if they're offended by that, because
literally,
what about Mario Cuomo though?
He was that.
Cuomo, he's an idiot.
He was that disliked by people,
and for
that
good
I think
reason,
a lot
too.
of people would not be offended at you saying that.
Words.
So he literally is responsible for thousands of elderly people dying during COVID.
That's exactly
it's
what
insane.
it is.
So what he did was during
nuts,
COVID. No, we agree. Murder is wrong. Murder is wrong. So he literally took all these elderly people, and I can't remember if there were elderly people that were sick with COVID, or if there were just other people that were younger that were sick with COVID. And he moved all these elderly people to the same facility. Or the same handful of facilities. And what do you bet? Big shock. A lot of them died.
And him and his staff personally went into the data and manipulated it to lower deaths.
I didn't know about that.
And they found out about that right after he published a whole book bragging about how great he handled the pandemic.
Andrew Cuomo sucks. We shake on it.
And not to mention
that's going to be my next flag.
Because the dude's a huge pervert. 11 women who worked with him accused him of sexual harassment.
Accused him of
pervert.
sexual assault.
Oh, I thought he was having 11 wives or something.
No.
That's 11.
Yeah, which he resigned for as governor of New York. And how does that mean? You resign in disgrace as the governor of New York, and then you have the balls to run as mayor of the most important city in America.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So that's one.
And
but there was a third
at the
candidate.
Same time,
there was a third
taking
candidate.
while at the same time taking in huge $1 million donations from super PACs. Like
all the politicians do that. That doesn't mean anything.
Not
these
all
days.
of them, actually. There is. Have you
Enough
ever
of
seen?
them
There's
to
a
where
good
it's the majority.
Yes, there is a good Instagram account called "Stalking the Capitol." It's where this one guy.
Oh, really?
He uses publicly available data to see if your congressman or senator is a piece of crap by looking into how much they make in donations from small donors, super PACs, regular PACs, how much stock they hold, and whatnot. And there's quite a lot from Democrats and Republicans that are total pieces of crap that are not financially have little financial integrity. But Mamdani he's so much more credible. Like
he got
about
money.
90% of his, about 1% of the funding that he raised from his campaign was from super PACs, where about 90% of it came from small individual donations, and even took. I'm trying to remember what it called, like
CARE.
Where
are you talking about that?
No, it was where you're given like a limited amount of money, about $80,000 for your campaign from the state.
So
which both him and Cuomo reached their limit for, and but
he received money
Cuomo,
from CARE though, just so you know.
And about 22, there's like
the community. I think it's the community of Arabic and American Islamic Relations, I think that is. But you can look it up. CARE donated to Zohran Mamdani. So there's interest groups for all these people. I mean, yeah, maybe it's not a super PAC, but these people all have their people behind them. They're lobbyists.
Here's my speculation on the whole, whatever his Mamdani face is. Two things are going to happen. One of two things are going to happen. He's either going to reform the economy with his socialist mindset and then get checked by the government, maybe find some happy medium that works in the short term for New York, sure. Or he's going to completely tank New York with his socialist ideas, and that place is going to go to crap. Personally, I hope that's what happens. I hope that New York goes to absolute crap.
Wow, wishing bad luck on people. That's
I am 100%
that's tough, bro.
wishing bad luck on New York.
It will
and
negatively
it's not going to be bad luck. It's going to be a bad mayor who's a moron.
It will negatively affect the rest of the country.
Well, let's see where it goes.
I think that if he does well, then he's now on the ladder to become president of the United States.
And it would happen.
It would happen, and then we would vote a freaking socialist into office.
And
that would be the worst thing that we could do to
America. I think that just like I think you're thinking the fact that just socialism already equals bad.
Socialism,
when I've told you that it doesn't.
I
mean, I've explained how it doesn't.
And we could get into that if you want.
Can I interject something really important here? So everyone talks about socialism.
The fact our capitalist system is already treating us unfairly, and I mean, the system in America is already so bad. You can just look out your window and see what capitalism is doing.
The worst part about
the
worst part about capitalism in our country is the crony capitalism, which is government and corporations working together to get what works best for both of them, not what works best for the people. I think that alliance needs to be. That's the true monopoly, and it needs to be busted.
That's what Mamdani was supposedly trying to fight against. Was that whole relationship there, but what you got to say?
So real quick, and then we're probably going to have to power down. Going from the author of communism, he did amalgamate the
Karl Marx.
Karl Marx. He did amalgamate the concept from a lot of other people from France and England, but he coined the term communism, from what I understand. He said socialism, and I'm not reading this, I'm just paraphrasing. He said, I've read the Communist Manifesto, that socialism is merely a transitory state on its way to communism.
Yeah.
It's very similar. The only difference between the two is basically how committed you are to the communist principles. Okay, that's coming from the author of communism. Now, maybe some socialists wanted to argue with that, but I feel like that's pretty. I feel like the conversation kind of just stops there. So here's the 10 planks or pillars of communism: abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. So no private property. A heavy progressive or graduated income tax. We can check that one off for America. 3 is abolition of all rights of inheritance. Death tax. we have that. I mean, there's limitations on it. It's not quite fully to that point, but that's the third plank. So you prevent people from having private property through number 3. You just confiscate wealth when someone dies. There's no inheritance. 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. 5, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means, which, by the way, that doesn't make sense because communism is supposedly a stateless society. But what we have seen is even in socialist societies where they say, yeah, we want to aim for a stateless solution, it doesn't happen on its own accord. The state has to enforce it. The people don't just, yes, I want socialism, Yes, I want to have what this is vying for. The state always has to enforce it. So then we also see, so by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. So, they control all of the financing. There's no gold, there's no silver. There's one currency. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Why is that important? So you can control the narrative. Why could you not have people, proliferate communication outside of the controlled media? Every nation that's ever gone wrong silences the opposition voices and only lets one voice exist. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. Equal liability of all to work, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the populace over the country. So basically, it's just communities interdispersed throughout. So you're not going to have Californians and Idahoans. You're just going to have community 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just going to be.
That's utopian.
So that looks similar to the 15-minute city concept. Free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production. So I agree with eliminating child labor, but overall, you're talking a complete shift from what we currently have as a system.
Read the first pillar again?
Oh, by the way, one of the things, and I think it was one of these pillars, but it didn't explain it correctly. One of them is the abolition of the family unit, which I think was part of that community one. So
That's under attack.
that one went so bad during the USSR. They tried that. It went so bad. Turns out we need parents. That Russia said we had to admit defeat on this point, and we had to allow for family units to continue. But that is their ideal. Is you don't have families, you have birthing centers, and the children are raised by a nurse. And they grow up in the education system, and then they become good comrades and contributors to society.
I say this a lot, and I probably shouldn't because it loses its meaning, but that right there is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Well, it's the most ungodly and unchristian thing too. The family is the central unit to God's plan. So if you're attacking that,
Christianity is racist though, so we should get rid of it.
the first point you wanted me to repeat was abolishing property.
Okay, we did that in the United States when the very first settlers, Thanksgiving time, Mayflower, all
they
that
tried
stuff.
socialism.
We tried socialism, and
Jamestown, it ended in cannibalism. The Pilgrims as well.
My thunder, frick! Jamestown, it ended in cannibalism. But
Sorry.
no, it doesn't matter who says. The point is, we're trying to get that. I'm trying to get that thing across. So I'm glad that you know about that too. But I mean, they tried socialism. They had everything in common. Nobody owned property, and the people just got lazy. They were working hard, and they're not getting what the effort that they exerted equals, and so they just stopped, and it resorted to cannibalism and eating shoelaces, and then they finally fixed it. They turned around, and America became great initially, and then we had to make it great again, and we're going to keep it great. But socialism has been tried too many times, and it has never worked, and it never will work, and that's just the bottom line of it.
Except there is social democracy.
There is social democracy. We could
And
talk
that's
about that
working.
Well, I want to give you some
It's
time.
working. And
What do you
I
wanna
want to
say?
say that my fear is that Mamdani turns out isn't who he says he is, because we've seen this with John Fetterman and with Kristen Sinema. They claim to be like more progressive and socialist than sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice, but more progressive and socialist than Bernie Sanders. But then it turns out they just appeal to whoever gives them the most money.
I love Fetterman. He's great.
I don't. He's just always bowing down to Israel, and that's why I don't like him. And I'm afraid Mamdani could do the same, and things will still stay crappy in New York, where they have unaffordable housing, more unlawful ICE arrests. We have more corruption and more inequality, and things will just be how they are. And that's what I'm worried about.
I think
so only time will tell if New York will thrive or not under Mamdani's. Well, and I don't see in this moment him being president, because I don't know if America is ready for that yet, to have a Muslim president.
Of course, it has nothing to do with the fact that he's Muslim. We don't care that he's Muslim. I didn't know he's Muslim.
So many people do. That's the main reason. That's the reason why a lot of people didn't trust him.
The main reason why we don't like him is because he's a socialist. And if we ever have a socialist president, I'm getting the heck out of here. I almost said hell. Glad I didn't say hell, because hell is a hard word to say.
You can say hell. You said it right
I
now.
Say hell. Hell is a bad word. I can't say hell. Hell no.
Shame.
Whatever. Go to. I think we're gonna maybe talk about a part 2 on this, because I think we still got lots to talk about.
Oh yeah, this was not enough time.
And maybe we could reconvene after Zohran Mamdani has done whatever major action he's about to do.
I hope things don't go to hell in a handbasket in New York. However, if it does, I hope that people can put 2 and 2 together.
That's exactly what I want.
That's what I want. Now, again, there's a difference there. If New York City suffers, the rest of our country suffers too. Like you said, a lot of our economy is based in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
But
you have to take a hard hit for people to get it through their thick skulls that socialism is not a good thing for the United States.
But
we agree you said he's a democratic socialist, and you don't think that's real socialism. So how is that socialism?
Democratic
That's destroying
socialism,
America.
Socialism is the same relationship as socialism is to communism. It's just baby steps.
Yeah, I agree. I don't trust the label democratic socialist rings to me. I don't want to admit who I really am. Do you realize that all of the news sources, left-leaning news sources, said, well, it looks like the mask has come off with Zohran Mamdani. We'll see what that actually means, but they have recognized that something has happened, and I don't know. You'd have to talk to them and see what they mean by that. But they have said the mask has come off, and I have never seen that happen before. Like, think of Fox News talking about Donald Trump and saying the mask has come off. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. So again, I don't know what they mean. I will be interested to see what they come out about in the future.
Type of people are starting to kind of question that, which is good. I hope they question.
That's honest.
And shut him down before he completely throws New York in the toilet. But, I mean, we'll see. We're going to have to reconvene, because I like talking about this. I like talking with you, Jeffrey, because you bring ideas to the table that we can actually address.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I liked that it was substantive. Yeah. It was really
rare
cool.
We see like a candidate that actually seems like a man of the people. You know what I mean? Because Mamdani was always out there like campaigning on the streets, meeting with people, and with people of all communities in New York.
He's very respectful.
He's the new face he's like the new Obama.
He's definitely not Obama at all. Obama's
black and he's not black.
No, because Obama is a center-right neoliberal. That's why.
I keep hearing this. That's actually concerning to me.
What?
I keep hearing that liberals are actually right of center. That's actually really concerning to me.
No, neoliberals, I would say, are right of center. Liberals are center left.
Yeah.
I would say.
think
Yeah.
society has its own definitions for things, and we think liberal, we think extreme leftist. And it's,
Yeah, we can.
I don't think that. It's not. It's a classical liberal is, actually it is pretty aligned with conservative values, but they were never right of center. They have always been left of center. That was the original right and left. It's just the progressive movement has moved farther left, and that's what I see is that the goalpost for what center has moved to. So then it makes liberals look like they're non-committal. They're just right wing. Yeah, but that's called is it a left skew? I think it's a left skew.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should reconvene. I've said that like 4 times now.
Yep.
I'm not trying to have a conversation. I just think, we're kind of running out of time, and I like talking to you. I think you got cool things to bring to the table, and I think when we reconvene, it could be really efficient.
Oh, yeah, I agree. As a guy who runs video productions and radio, we gotta keep in time frame. But I would say last thing, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
On this show, you guys. I'm very glad you guys reached out to me, despite just being a regular. I'm just a normal guy. I don't think my views are unique or anything. A lot of them share them, and I'm glad this is a new experience because growing up in Sonora, California, I've been surrounded by conservatives and even the far-right extremists who would call me radical and send me strange messages on Facebook. But it's
Don't do that to you.
yeah, but I actually doing this on camera in front of people is neat, and because I'm a little self-conscious. I think all of us kind of
for sure.
are.
But you're very well spoken.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what you believe and you present it very well, which I actually really, really like. So
It's taken years of practice to
there you
get
go.
there.
It's worth it.
Doesn't always come naturally because of my disabilities.
Right.
Well, I
and
just want
stuff.
to just thank you for coming on the show, but also thank you for participating in the duel. It can be intimidating since we're both conservatives. I try my best to be moderate, as you can see today. These issues, they just.
We should flip for one episode where I'm the moderate one.
I'm just gonna say off the wall crazy stuff.
That's a good challenge.
I might.
That would be a good challenge.
I might.
I like how he knows already.
I might need like that cleansing. Just like get all of the comments out there.
Maybe we should do an episode just you and me. Where we just
Maybe.
unleash.
We appreciate it because it is an intimidating thing, and we don't want people to be intimidated. We want this to be an open discussion, and you demonstrated that perfectly. So we thank you for your participation.
Yeah.
And I want to say to other people because, if you're a little shy to tell your political views, just, be yourself. Just don't be afraid to voice your opinion. And you shouldn't care what other people think of you because, why would you?
Yeah, other people's opinion of you is not that valuable at the end of the day.
Yeah, I remember. There's a quote from Dr. Dre because I love hip hop so much. He said, "It's crazy to
Now we agree.
It's crazy to see people be what society wants them to be, but not me."
Yeah.
To me, that just speaks to me right
I
here.
like that. Dr. Dre, shout out. How have you felt being on the show? Like with 2 conservatives, I'm kind of a butthead sometimes. Like how have you felt in filming?
I've rolled my eyes from some of the things
That's
you said.
allowed.
Daniel did too.
That's allowed.
Which is fine, but but do you feel good about it? Do you feel?
Yeah,
how do you feel?
I guess I feel like when I coming out, I thought I was gonna tell more jokes, but no, I was just
Yeah.
A little more
trying to be
serious.
Do you feel like your
It's
voice
like-
was heard?
Of course. I'm on your show. Of
Okay.
course, I'm
That's
I'm
good.
being heard.
Good.
I'm not just gonna come on here to complain.
That's
Yeah.
what we try and
Even
help.
though is that what we've been doing? We've just been complaining for an hour.
No,
with
I don't think
mics.
so. Not entirely. There's been a
I
moment or
have.
two.
I try not to do that. I try not to use such harsh words.
No, I don't think that was the case.
But I'm also.
We just wanted to make sure.
But I also, believe in that nothing is off limits when it comes to comedy. You could say pretty much anything you
I
want.
love that. I agree too.
No, there's some things I won't say, but there are some pretty funny dark jokes out there.
There's some things that I'm not yet ready to say on camera.
Yeah. So we're going to end right there, guys. Thanks for watching. We had a great time. If you couldn't tell, this was very civil, even though it got pretty heated. And the thing is, that's what happens. Learning to be able to shake hands at the end, to be able to just say, hey, we still care about you. We're still brothers in Christ. And even if, our guest wasn't, We're still brothers
Am I
in
not a
humanity.
brother in Christ?
We're saying, like,
No,
in the future, like, if
other people.
presented with
Even
you,
if you hadn't been, if you were Muslim or another faith, we would still
no,
consider you
you're a
brother
in
of
Christ, don't
humanity.
worry, bro.
I'm
Yeah,
a member here.
you
Don't
go.
forget that.
Anyway, have a great night, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Amen.
Ugh.